In this module, we'll be taking a very brief and cursory look at the art of South and Southeast Asia before 1200. This is a region and a long time period that has a very rich history and a very rich visual culture, and I'm sorry we can't go more into depth, but hopefully this will give you a bit of a taste of the style and iconography of this region that is based on some of the great world cultures and faiths. In the 3rd millennium BCE, a great civilization arose over a wide geographic area along the Indus Valley in Pakistan, in modern-day Pakistan. And here is the Indus River here. It extended into India as far as Gujarat in the west and as far as Delhi in the east. And so when Alexander the Great and his army reached India, they encountered a civilization that was already more than 2,000 years old. In fact, some of the main cities, the remains of the first cities in the Indus Valley, predate the citadels of Homer's Trojan War heroes by a millennium. The Indus Valley civilization flourished from about 2600 to 1500 BCE, but some of the oldest remains and ruins show that it might have gone as early as 3300 BCE. This makes it contemporary with some of the great early civilizations of Mesopotamia, Old Kingdom Egypt, and the Aegean. The Indian Peninsula also is the birthplace of two of the modern world's great religions, Buddhism and Hinduism, and we'll be looking at both of these faiths and how they inspired art. In 326 BCE, after conquering the Persian Empire, Alexander the Great reached the Indus River, but his troops refused to go forward. Alexander the Great probably abandoned his dream of conquering India at this point and headed home. After his death, one of his chief officers divided the empire. One of his officers, Seleucus Nicator, reinvaded India, but Chandragupta, and I'm sorry about my pronunciation, but this is his name right here, the founder of the Maurya dynasty, defeated him in 300 BCE and eventually consolidated almost all of the present-day India under his domain. The person chiefly responsible for the spread of Buddhism then was Chandragupta's successor, the Buddhist convert King Ashoka. That's, I've written down his name right here. He was one of the most important people in spreading Buddhism throughout South Asia and established a monastery in Sanchi in Central Asia, Central India, and we'll be looking at that further on. During the Neolithic period, this peninsular region, which includes South Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, as well as India, was dominated by regional kingdoms and cultures that interacted with one another. There were constant, well-defined religions that led to continuity in art. And the culture spread to northwestern Afghanistan, Tibet, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Melanesia, and Indonesia. They were also linked to East Asia through trade, through land and sea routes. There were regional art developments, and many of the main differences were due to languages. In modern-day India, there are recognized about 22 languages, but there would have been many, many more, including different dialects. There were also differences in terms of climate and terrain, and this caused distinct regional traditions. But there are some overarching similarities in the art of the Indian subcontinent. First, they valued beauty and a very ornamental, voluptuous beauty that showed decorative forms and abundant ornamentation and an emphasis on texture and color. They also shared an overarching symbolism and iconography, and we'll see that this can translate from one region to another. And finally, there is an emphasis on the vibrancy of the world that is infused with the divine. There is no separation of church and state in this region, in the iconography of this region. And so we see the emphasis on vibrancy as an expression of the divine. The Indus Valley Civilization may go back as far as 3300 BCE, and it flourished until 1200 BCE. At its peak, it might have exceeded 5 million people and had some very large and vibrant urban areas. Mohenjo-Daro is one of these sites that reflect an urban population. From the Indus Valley Civilization. This is in modern-day Pakistan, and this was a city that flourished between 2600 and 1900 BCE. I'm showing you some of the archaeological remains of this city, and specifically this great bath, which reflects a place where there was possibly ritual bathing. It is a very large pool that is about 39 feet by 28 feet and 8 feet deep. It was made out of stone and baked clay brick, sealed with bitumen. Bitumen is that tarry asphalt-like substance that we came across in the Near East unit. It was the substance that may have sealed in the ziggurats and protected mud brick from dissolving. There is not a lot of art from this period, but one of the best preserved surviving works is this sculpture of a robed male figure from Mohenjo-Daro. And we see a very small sculpture of a torso. It's less than 7 inches tall, made out of steatite, which is a kind of soapstone. So it is hard, but easily carved. The figure shows a male subject with a beard and no mustache. It kind of looks like he might have a mustache, but these are his lips. And very narrow eyes with just kind of slits for openings. He's wearing a robe, and I think you can see from both the front and the back view that that robe is covered with these trefoil designs or clover-like floral designs. And he's wearing it across one shoulder. He also has a headband with a circle, and that band is tied in the back. And he has a matching band around his arm. From the sculpture, I think you can see that there is a balance of naturalism with stylization. We get the sense of a figure with a little bit of interest in naturalization in the figure representing someone with a real physique, but the ornamentation, the linear the linear carving in the beard and the hair shows a certain amount of decorative stylization. The repeated forms as well, the emphasis on repeated forms as well on the robe also emphasize this interest in ornamentation over naturalism. We also find these seals, which are kind of stamps that have a notch on the back, and that notch might have been meant for hanging around one's neck, almost like a pendant, but also used to seal things like a roll of fabric. It might have been closed with a bit of wax or soft soil, and then one's seal would have been impressed into the soft substance and shown the ownership of the material or the trade of the merchant trade of this material. You can see that there is a combination here of both naturalism and stylization as well. I'm showing you up here, for example, the seal of a cow that has long horns, and there is quite an interest in showing you the information of the form of the cow, but there is also an emphasis on the linear quality, an insistence on the details based on line. There also seems to be pictographs above that could reflect someone's identity or perhaps having a totemic meaning. The one I'm showing you below, this one, is from Mohenjo-Daro, and there is a figure in the center in a yogic posture. And that shows, again, this continuity and similarities based on regional religions. Here is a sculpture in that same kind of cross-legged lotus position pose, and we see that also in this figure here as well. Like the seal with the cow, we also have that combined with kind of pictographs, which might have identified the owner of this object. These artists, these makers, were obviously also very skilled in creating these on a very small scale. They're really miniaturists. And so there is an interest in putting as much information as possible using the possibilities of line rather than form. They are, again, created with steatite, which is that kind of very hard but carvable stone, and then treated with alkali and baked.